It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. So, you might be wondering, how do you get to ask questions? All you have to do is use the question panel on the right of GoToWebinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter to submit your questions with the #EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons with your hosts, Will Curran of Endless Events, Laura Lopez of Social Tables, and Brant Kruger of Event Technology Consulting.
Oh yeah, welcome back everybody. It is Will in the house. Unfortunately, Laura and Brant are off on events and staying very busy, so you guys are stuck with me today. But I have an amazing guest who's going to make up for it. She is absolutely amazing. We've actually had her on the show previously on the IMEX episode, so if you get a chance, scroll all the way back to the episode or whatever that was, 50, 40, 30 something, and check out the IMEX episode where we had the amazing Marin Bright, the founder and CEO of Smart Meetings. I know you read it. I know you religiously love it as much as I do, so we are just so excited to have Marin here. Thank you so much for being here, Marin.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor, privileged. I don't know if I can live up to all that. It's great.
We are excited to have you here for sure. And I think a lot of the audience is excited to hear the backstory of how Smart Meetings got started and, you know, how you guys differentiate yourselves in this big, awesome events industry of publications and things like that, and how you guys get these amazing scoops on the awesome events that you guys have.
Oh, I love that. Can't give away all my secrets, but yeah, I actually started in the hotel industry.
Awesome.
In Oakland, California. I opened a Hyatt Regency there that actually the Miami Dolphins stayed in for the Super Bowl when they played the 49ers. And my sister said to me when I got out of college, "You're awfully good at lunch. I think you should go into the hotel industry." And I thought, you know, lunch really was my specialty. So I went from Hyatt to Mandarin to Four Seasons, and then the earthquake hit in San Francisco, and anybody who lived here in San Francisco in those days wouldn't believe it, but nobody wanted to come here after the earthquake. It was a bloodbath. And after about a year of hiding in the bushes and stealing business from all the competitors, I thought, there must be a better career out there. So I decided to go into publishing. I had a degree in journalism and went to work for San Francisco Magazine and the Business Times and all the kind of local suspects and get my experience under my belt. And then I applied, and I really loved the travel industry and didn't want to leave that, and applied to a job. At the time it was the #1 meetings magazine called Meeting News in New York, and I got the job, and I lived in San Francisco, and I reported to New York, and it was pretty wild times, and I loved it. And then I left there, and I started a magazine that's now known as Meetings Today, and I was there for 10 years, and I started what was Meetings West, Meetings South, Meetings East, and then after 10 years of that, I must be a disaster move because I move every disaster. Right after 9/11, I thought, okay, I need a change, and didn't want to go over the Golden Gate Bridge. There was lots of craziness happening in the world, and so I thought I would take a little time off, kind of a Jerry Maguire story, and a couple of my employees came with me, and I was just going to relax, but no, we started Smart Meetings as after 9/11 as a way to help the industry. It was a value coupon book, if you can believe.
Oh, wow.
And we sold more in the worst of times than I'd launched like 9 magazines than I ever did in the best of times, and that just took off. And so quite honestly, as soon as my non-compete ran out, I started Smart Meetings magazine.
Amazing.
Yeah, here we are 15 years later.
I know time flies, right? So I'm curious to know, do you think that your experience from the hotel industry was really really aided you in when you were, starting to write and get
Oh,
involved in the industry?
oh, without a doubt. And more importantly, when I'd go in to make a sales call, I knew their pain. I had been on that side of the desk. It was a true synergistic. Also, I have a passion for it. I love hotels. On vacation, I go and look at hotels that my husband asked him. It's really uh, fun for me, not always fun for him, but I think that that has given me a leg up. I think anything that you do well, you have to have a true passion for, and I uh, find it really interesting.
Amazing, amazing. And so I know you started off as a writer. Do you still write today, or are you working
I
primarily
do,
as a CEO and founder?
I do write, but I actually started off in sales.
Oh,
I
really?
started off selling advertising, which is usually the path in publishing to the top, the
Cool.
revenue side.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, like anything, when you launch something, you write, you lay it out, you empty the garbage, you do the dishes, and you sell. Yeah.
I love it.
But
I
that's
love
the
it.
path to publisher. And I've always had a lot of freelance and a full staff. I've got, 6 editors and
Awesome. Amazing. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you are structured today so people can get an idea of, it's not just, you and maybe a couple of writers. You have a whole
oh
team that helps put this process together every single month.
Oh, yeah, we have 35
Wow.
staff here. We're located in Sausalito, and we're finding that as the business changes, it's really about data. It's really about marketing. We really have found ourselves being much more of a marketing arm for a lot of destinations and hotels. We really provide the full service. Digital is huge to us. We do a lot webinars. Uh, we're getting into podcasts. We're doing a lot more video. So the digital side is a huge department unto itself. Our marketing department is 3 people strong and growing. We even have a video person now, along with 6 editors and 6 salespeople
Wow.
and a dog that barks too much.
You got to have the token
Gotta have
office
it.
dog. At our
Exactly.
office, it was always the token office cat, though, so it was always a meowing in the background.
Oh, yeah, the
Uh,
cat. I
yeah.
never knew what to do with the cat on the weekend, though. How could you leave the cat? I'd have to
They're
live
so
in the
independent. They're
office.
the best event
Yes, they
pet.
probably happy you go.
Exactly, exactly. See that my cats are like, good, he's gone. Then we get the whole
Oh,
house to ourselves.
yeah, let's get
Uh,
going.
we're gonna have to do a cats versus dogs episode eventually on here. I'm curious to know. You obviously with this really broad, experience from the hotels, sales, writing, now marketing. If you weren't in the events industry, what do you think you would be doing?
Oh, well, I have a couple of passions. I love aromatherapy.
Mm,
And I really think that there's a lot to scent. We're writing an article about it next month. You go into a Westin now and you have the green tea scent, and Meridian has a scent, and all the hotels have, and there's been all kinds of evidence to show that scent is one of the strongest things that triggers memories.
hmm
I can smell Chanel #5 and think of my mom kissing me goodnight. It's crazy. And so I would love to, and I still have this in the back of my mind when it's all over and I'm sailing by in my yacht, I'll be consulting people on how they can use scents and aromatherapy to heal themselves.
Wow. I will say, I think that's like the most broad outside, but you're ready to go. You're like ready to do this.
I love it as a passion. I might not love it as much as a business, but I do love it. Even at our events, we put small crock pots, and I think this is a hot tip for any event
Ooh.
person. And we fill them with, if we want people to be mellow and relaxed, we fill them with lavender. If we want it to be awake and let's get going, we fill them with peppermint. And I'm not kidding, it really, I want people to have like a little bit more brain power, put some rosemary in there, lemon. I mean, it can do a lot for your event. That's why they
Yeah.
have popcorn and movie theaters and feel good, and there's a lot to it.
I was gonna say the popcorn in movie theaters, I think, does a really good job of making me
Or the
eat a
mall.
ton of
Yeah.
popcorn.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Me
Shout out to Hans Etman in the house, who's going to be on a future episode too. So, a little spoiler alert for everyone. He's wondering, do you make that scent advice about scent? Is that like is that your go-to like favorite thing to tell event planners as like, hey, you got to do this for all your events?
Oh, my go-to. I think that there's multiple things. I don't think a lot of people think about scent, so it's something to set yourself apart for sure. If you were, to have some aroma. You have to be careful with it though, because a lot of people are allergen sensitive. So
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you got the real deal, the pure stuff. You can't get the chemical stuff. So I would be careful about advising that without a lot of disclaimers about what you would be using. But I think that if I was going to have a go-to advice, I would say people, you start hearing about this a lot of places, and we really play it out at our events. They want experiences. Give them a give them a memory, give them a movie, give them something. I know it sounds cliche, but change their life, move them, make them think outside the box.
Awesome, awesome. And I love that you've kind of thought beyond just the typical senses of sight and maybe even feeling, and you're really engaging all five senses. We did a webinar on that, which I'll post in the resources below. But not a lot of people think about scent, or they think about taste because they have to make food, right? But scent
Right.
is huge, and it's part of the experience. You
A
fulfill
huge
it,
part.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So next, I want to kind of dive in so people can understand. Not everyone has heard of smart meetings. I mean, those people, shame on you.
Mhm.
But for those who don't know what it is, or maybe only know it as just the magazine, obviously you're way more than that now. Can you kind of explain what is smart meetings today?
Oh,
And
sure.
we'll jump a little bit deeper into that.
Okay. So yeah, Smart Meetings is the leading magazine, by the way, in the industry, both in market share. There's all kinds of measurements, independent measurements out there.
Awesome.
And we do digital, website, webinars. We do a lot of email, e-newsletter. Our e-newsletter keeps winning award after award, so that's really fun. Um, we think of ourselves as content, and content can show up in video. We have Smart Meetings TV. We have our events, of course, that I was just talking about. We're off next week to the Wyndham Grand in Bonnet Creek in Orlando.
Awesome.
And we just wrapped up at the Ritz-Carlton in Denver. We just launched last year the Smart Woman event, which we're now getting into really accelerating women and their power and taking them places with great speakers and education. So we're really hitting people on all levels that they want to gain information on how to make their meeting or event better regardless of the venue.
Awesome. I love it. For someone who maybe is wanting to get like a crash course in smart meetings and see some of your best content, what pieces of recent content that you guys have published or maybe brought to life, basically like either a webinar or article that you've read or that you guys have published recently that you'd say, hey, I would recommend someone definitely read this article that we just published.
Oh,
I know
geez,
there's a
there's
lot.
a
You guys
lot.
have
Yeah,
published a
there's
lot
a
of awesome
lot.
content.
That's well, I think one that was really popular was our Smart Women issue where we honored the doers and the up and comers and the entrepreneurs and the outstanding women. That was a really great. This month we have Isadora Sharp, who started Four Seasons Hotels on our cover, which is really interesting to read about him and how he's really changing the face of thing. We had Anthony Bourdain
Awesome.
um, not very long ago, and last month was, oh, huge topic, security, meeting security right now.
Oh,
That's on
wow.
the tip of everybody's tongue. Like,
Yeah.
how do you stay safe out there, even going to the grocery store? So we took that on in a big way because
Amazing.
meetings are gatherings, and there's some fear out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we're doing an upcoming episode just on event security because, yeah, it's such a hot topic right now.
Such a hot topic.
Everyone needs to be thinking about what it looks like beyond just the obvious stuff too, or just saying, "Hey, I'm just going to give a vendor to worry about." They have to think about it holistically. I also got to give some
Absolutely.
props too. The Smart Women's issue was absolutely amazing. Really, I love those issues that highlight people because a lot of times our industry is so small, yet it's very big, and sometimes you might not know of everybody who's in the industry.
Right.
So when you get to learn about someone new and say, wow, I feel like I could really learn from this person, maybe reach out to them to be your mentor or maybe work on a future project together. I just love those kind of issues for sure.
Oh, I'm
Um,
glad to hear that. That's great.
we're curious to know, like, since you guys have launched, how has smart meetings really impacted the meetings and events industry? Have you seen that it's become more, organized? Like, tell me a little bit about what you've seen from the impact that you
We
guys have
are
had.
responsible for the complete and total organization of the meetings and events industry. It is
I love
so
it.
much more organized now that if only we could claim that. However, I will say, in all honesty, that when I had worked for a lot of different meetings, magazines and websites, and I could see that a lot of the people who plan meetings and events aren't just meeting planners or event planners. They often are tasked by their company. You'd go call on the company. Oh, Betty does that. She's Bob's secretary. There's lots of different people who are charged with being in this industry. So we really took smart meetings to a different level in that it wasn't, trade magazines used to sort of be trade magazines. They didn't have to have pictures that were even in focus or look very nice. So we really broke out of the mold by making smart meetings much more consumer-esque. And it's funny, we got critiqued and criticized by our competitors until they all just sort of started doing it too. So I think we've really raised the bar as far as the look and feel of the actual media, the piece itself. We were the first to do one-on-one hosted buyer. I remember walking into a room. I was on a panel at IBTM, and somebody said, I had smart meetings is written on the board. I said, oh, what smart meetings is? They said, oh, the last speaker said you guys were the ones to watch. So we were out ahead. We were doing hosted buyer before IMEX came to town, which is, well, it's IMEX. And we've got a lot of firsts. We were the first to really cover food in depth. We were the first to really get into health and fitness. We were the first to really, I remember I had a boss when I first started in publishing in the meetings market, and she said, you look at the trends that are happening with people because those are the things that people are going to want to do in their group. People are people, it's regardless. Don't try to overthink. And we've sort of stayed with that simple mantra. So whatever we like doing personally, now people do yoga and meetings, and it's all we like eating better food. It's part of the meeting. It's that's how meetings go. So we've stayed not only on the cutting edge, but I think we've been the leader, breaking and leading the industry, bringing most of these things to at least the meeting side.
Awesome. Wow. And I love that quote about focusing on trends around people. It's huge because sometimes we get so excited about technologies, but it comes down to the people, right? That's why
Oh,
we
that's
create events. It's
absolutely,
about people.
that's
I'm
right.
curious to know why do you think that, so there's, with all this content out there, I mean, us ourselves, Endless Events are producing a lot of content. There's, as you said, there's competitors out there. I mean, in general, why is these sort of resources important to event planners?
Why are these resources important? There's all this
Yeah.
content. Why is our content or
Yeah, it could be your content or just in general, I guess, like content in general important
content?
too.
Well, I think planning a meeting is a lot more complex than most people think. It's always interesting to me when I'm telling somebody new in the industry what it's about. I mean, just to do a hotel contract now is probably bigger than getting married or buying a house. It's huge, and it's so there's at this industry as much as it's about fun and wowing and I think inspiring, bringing people together. There's a lot to it, and I don't think a lot of people understand uh, the planning the menu, taking things, the flow, the small little things that everybody takes for granted. Are the restrooms close by? Are they the legalities around if somebody overdrinks and leaves your meeting? I mean, I think you have to, and it's constantly changing. Keeping up on the technology that's coming into our industry is huge. And so it's a never-ending plethora of topics that I think to be a good event or meeting planner, you have to constantly be keeping up on, you know, the latest and the greatest. What's the new food? Oh, now there's this, you know, this is the it. We'll ask Kate Pate, this is the it color. This is, you know, there's a lot of ambiance and technicalities that go into it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love that. Yeah, content's the place to learn about all that stuff. We have a really great question from the audience. They're wondering, you know, you've been around and you have the history behind you. You've been in the industry for a long time.
I've been around. Oh yeah.
Not so, just that
No,
you
I
guys,
get it. I get it.
you guys are icons. You know what I mean? But they want to know, in your experience, are there things that this industry is very hard-headed and slow to learning? Are there are there any like mistakes that you see event planners and meeting planners make consistently over and over again throughout the years?
I think that's hard to say about an industry as a whole. I'm always surprised that our industry isn't always, it's not, I would say our industry is not the one that's going to be on the cutting edge. We're slow probably in many ways to adapt many things that we don't have the time to discuss here. But you couldn't say that as a blanketed against any industry. I think that travel is like an industry that gets hit on by everybody. And I think during .com, and I saw this happen, people got called on and they jumped on the bandwagon for this, that, and the other. And now I think that they're a little bit more cautious. Everybody wants, oh, I've got this great idea, let's sell it to a hotel or a travel or an events. I think people are a little bit less trigger happy to jump in until it's tried or true. So to some extent, I think it's a good idea. Some extent, we miss the boat and we're not always first.
I like it. I like it. I mean, you talked a little bit in your last answer about technology and how you know, content's a great place for people to stay on top of these trends, even though we are a little slower than most. I'm curious to know that you guys are really, really good at staying on top of the cutting edge technology and the latest and coolest things going on in the industry.
Right.
I mean, obviously can't share all the secrets, but what are some of your tactics to staying on top of all this stuff, to staying on top of the coolest trends?
Yeah, absolutely. You are in the media. I think there's a couple of things. You have to hire good, and I do have really good editors who are curious and snoopy and, you know, can smell trends and research trends and looking for trends. That's why, you know, journalists were created, was to kind of get out in front. To be perfectly honest too, we're inundated with press releases.
Yeah.
We have our nose to the wire on press. We don't even begin to scratch the surface of all the people who think that they have a story, and we need to, that's part of why I think people these days follow a certain medium. Is our job is to distill down what comes in masses and make it palatable so that it can be easily digested by those who are following us and find us to be a resource for them. So we have to be picky of what we think is going to be the most pertinent information that our readers are going to be able to use. And, you know, that's from, you know, what's happening in the world to, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that, or getting insights. You know, magazines these days, I think anybody could not be a cutting edge news. We can't look at that. However, we can be much more of an in-depth tell the story. And a website, we have the digital side, the newsletter can be much more of the cutting news.
Awesome. I love it. I was going to mention, yeah, it must be, you know, very nice that now that people come to you saying, hey, I want to get heard and, you know, I want to be featured in your magazine. So a lot of times people are coming to you before they've even released the technology because they're like, hey, we're going to do a story. That must be really exciting sometimes. What would you say if you made like a prediction on trends? I mean, we're in like midway through the year right now, so maybe it's the next 12 months or whatever. Maybe it's even longer if you want to make a longer prediction. But what would be like some one trend that makes you really, really excited right now?
I can't wait to check into my room, download the app, order my meal, and have the robot deliver it.
I love it. So you're excited about robots then and AI and all those sort of things.
I am excited about robots. I
Awesome.
am. I think that, well, yeah, there's going to be the good and the bad and the ugly, but yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I think the hotels are, you don't need a key anymore. You can use your phone,
Nice.
uh, get right into your room. I do think though that there's still a need for the human touch. I mean, I just wrote an article this morning about why I like Four Seasons is because are so hands-on and it's so much service, and so there'll be a little bit for everybody. But I
Interesting.
think that from a technology standpoint,
At least probably until the robots get so good at service they're better than humans, and then at that point we'll
then
probably
we
be like,
won't like
okay,
them anymore.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
basically, right?
yeah, maybe I could do my job now.
I'm sure you get to see a lot of really great technology because I mean you're in the Bay Area, which is like kind of like in the
Yeah,
United States, the hub of technology. So you get
right.
all the coolest, newest apps. You guys had Uber Eats before Uber Eats was a thing, and I'm sure it's really exciting to be around all of it all the time.
It is exciting. Yeah, Airbnb, it all started here, right? You just
Yeah.
drive down the freeway and you can see it happening. Uh, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, it's happening here.
It's amazing, amazing. So speaking of, we were talking about how a lot of people are approaching you and wanting to chat with you and get featured in the magazine and all the different awesome content that you're publishing. Everyone who's out there who's either a meeting planner that plans events and wants their event to be featured, or maybe it's an event startup, or maybe a more established vendor that wants to, become the authority, be published on your different channels. What are your recommendations to someone who wants to be featured in your content? Bringing it to your team, how do you recommend that they present it? Is it the traditional press release? Do they recommend they build a relationship?
You
What's
know,
your kind of
we
your tips?
love people reaching out to us. It's so interesting. I mean, you can reach us at edit@smartmeetings.com. We love ideas. We love it when people pitch us. We use a lot of stories that are pitched to us on a regular basis. We love a call. My editor before I was coming on today said, tell him to call me. My phone doesn't ring as much as it should. And, none of us pick up the phone anymore. That sure is a great way to get yourself to stand out. You don't have to write a fancy press release to get through to us. You can, reach out and you've got a great idea. We'd love to hear it. Love that stuff. The more people who are involved, helping us and giving us ideas, we just can't get enough. Please do.
I love it. It's interesting because a lot of times, from someone like me who's outside the industry, you always think that in the media industry, you think that, oh, I'm almost annoying them because I'm sure they get inundated a lot. But it's really interesting. I think that you have the knack that you want to pick up the phone and talk to someone, like that. You're just so used to getting these press releases. They're all black and white on Word and everything like that, and they're just sometimes you just want the human touch, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love it. It goes a long way, and my editors are very receptive to that.
That's awesome. And what sort of, I guess, if we were to, reach out and ask everyone out there in the interwebs, what sort of stuff are you guys looking to cover that you want, that you're excited, that you're looking more for right now? Is it, do you want event planners
Right.
sharing their innovative events, or do you want more vendors? What are you guys kind of looking for?
We did a big contest 2 years ago called Think Big, and we had people submit their events, and it was really a huge success. We're overdue doing that again. We love that, the creativity. So always about showing that off and somehow putting it in. We have a regular column on food and beverage. We have a regular column on decor. Whatever you've got that you'd like to submit that would really stand out, I think it would be fabulous to see and give us some ideas on that. We're always looking for ideas on technology that you use. You mentioned earlier that we're in the heart of that. Although, a lot of event there's a lot of event technology to stay up on. So if you know of some tool that's really working for you, we'd love to share that. We've got a special section in our website and in our magazine all about that. Please, that would be great. Love
I
it.
love it. Awesome.
But
So
I
we're
wanted
getting a lot
to
of.
tell you about the Uber and the Airbnb. All of that going on right here is just driving the cost of our housing up way too high. That's the thing.
Is it?
That's the thing. Oh, yeah.
Technology always
Yeah.
making everything more expensive.
Oh, yeah, everything. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So we're starting to get a lot of questions in from the audience. So I'm going to try to prioritize these in the right order. So let's start off with this first question.
Sure.
They're wondering, how has the evolution of social media changed the way you create shareable content?
Yeah, that's we are the largest in the meetings industry on social media. If you do a count of Twitter followers and Facebook of any channel, we jumped in, we embraced it. We think that it's an important place to share content. That's how some people get their news. They get their information. We got to be there too. So uh, we are posting. Some people say to me, I have to say recently I got this comment, boy, you're everywhere. But you kind of have to be right now with a media company. So yeah, we're LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Not as much. We're really getting more and more into Instagram.
Yeah, it's been growing like absolutely
Even
crazy these
Twitter.
last couple
Oh
months.
yeah, growing. That one's really on the move.
Do you have any like predictions at all when it comes to social media and what you have been seeing as far as, you guys get to see where the traffic's coming from the most coming to your articles? Like, has there been like a rise of a certain platform, like Instagram? Have you seen like a downfall of any? We're starting to hear, is Twitter dead now for
I don't
things?
know.
Like, what's your thoughts on those different
Donald
channels?
Trump's kind of keeping that one alive, isn't he? Twitter.
Very much so.
I think it's tricky. I think that Twitter is a timing thing. It's such a fast, flash. Snapchat is a flash. I think people who are on social media a lot have more time than probably the typical event or meeting planner. But I get my flashes. Sometimes I'm waiting for a plane, and that's when I get all my info. And then sometimes I'm home and I have time to watch the news, and then I'm no Wi-Fi and I'm reading. And so, it really depends on where people are at the time and when and how it's going to be digested.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like everyone has their own kind of preference, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So got another question from Hans. Hans asks, does Smart Meetings I'm guessing is working on are you working on a platform for readers in which, for a platform for readers in which readers can meet digitally or human to human? You've talked a little bit about the events, but have you been working on creating any more communities around the audience that you've been creating?
That's interesting. There was a lot of hubbub for a while about like virtual trade shows, and we looked at that, although nobody was really able to make a go of it. We do have groups, that we have. We have the Smart Connection that's hosted on LinkedIn. We have about 5,000. We talk about doing that kind of thing. I think it's difficult to segregate out with people's time. So, we'd be open to it, just haven't seen it working that well. If I see a model that works, we'd be very open to it.
That's awesome. Well, you've been focusing a lot on the in-person aspect by creating your own events, like you said, with the Smart
Yeah.
Meetings event coming up and the event that you have coming up in Orlando, or in Florida, I should say, coming up in
Florida's Orlando. Yeah, that's right.
Orlando in a little bit less than a month or so, you said?
Yeah, actually, next week. I'll be
Awesome. Oh my
flying
gosh.
out next Friday. Yeah.
So the audience, this comes in one of my follow-up audience questions. They want to know what makes your events must-attend events. Maybe talk about maybe the specific ones and why they're different, maybe because they obviously all have a different flair to them. Why should someone attend these meetings?
Um, well, a lot of times they're hosted buyer, so the hotels and resorts are coming in and they want to, if you have a need to be really efficient to source business, that's a must. That would be the main reason I think to come, is to meet with a lot of great hotels and CVBs in a short period of time and really get down to some, talking business and businesses book there and ROI. I think like any media company, one of our top jobs is to be an inspiration. I think of us as the industry cheerleader. I like to think, and I tell people this all the time, steal this idea, steal this idea. So we do a lot of extra. Our swag, okay, if you want to be shallow and come for our swag bags, they're awesome. Well, maybe some people just do that, and I like to know who they are. But um, we have amazing food. I mean, we put a lot of thought into our menus, giving people ideas about things that they hadn't thought about. Most recently, we were up at Seattle. Here's another one. We had Bob Eubanks. Some of you might be too young to remember, but he was our keynote speaker, and he was one of the top promoters of the Beatles, and he had stories about the Beatles that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. So we gave people this kind of secret, insider. Now, what does that have to do with meetings and events? It doesn't directly. However, who doesn't want to know secrets about the Beatles? But it does if you watched Bob Eubanks, because the guy was amazing at working a room and connecting. And, he said when he ran the Newlywed Show, he'd go backstage, people were all quiet, nobody wanted to talk. It was like, oh my God, what were we thinking? We're finally, and he could break in and get people to open up. And what an art it was just to watch him do that. So I think you get amazing education, you learn things that you wouldn't normally learn. We really go all out. Our speakers are constantly being commented. I could go on and on about the amazing speakers, especially that we just had in Denver. So you've got the education, you're having a food and beverage experience, you're getting great gifts, and you're meeting with top people in the industry. And hey, decor is huge for us, and ideas, and I think high touch, a lot of people miss that. You could do all the great things you want. We have Poke in there, latest technology. We use Slido so people could ask questions without raising their hands, and I'm really into this new exciting thing. The guy came and pitched me at the last event called educational measure, where people get an iPad and the presentation is right in front of them, and they can take notes and email it to them. So there's all kinds of new things like that. But we're really about making the event and meeting planner feel special and important, and that we're looking out and anticipating their needs. And I think that if you had to distill down the secret formula, that would be it.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. And I think one of the interesting things about your events too is that hosted by our element. That not a lot of events, like either going to a really massive one, or there's no like real in between, which is really great, because sometimes when you're an IMEX, you're a hosted buyer. Sometimes for those vendors, it's overwhelming because you're getting like
yeah,
quality versus quantity kind of conversations, right? So got another question from the audience. Megan Powers in the house has a question. She wants to know, will you be at IBTM America? So I'm going to kind of ask as well, what other events can people look forward to seeing you guys at, that maybe they can stop by your booth, or maybe that you're a sponsor for, or that you present maybe a content track for, any sort of events outside of the ones that you're planning that people can look for you at?
Absolutely. I am all signed up at MPI. I'll be in Las Vegas. I'm going to be in Las Vegas a lot, so it's Vegas, baby. I'm going to be at Cvent in Las Vegas. I'm going IBTM. I've always been a fan, and we've always gone, and they're now a little bit more of a closed platform, so open to that. Chose not to do Frankfurt. Maybe do their show in Barcelona on an international side. Well, of course, we'll be at IMEX. We're checking into this springtime that's now reinventing itself in ASAE. I'm not really sure exactly what they've got going on. And then ASAE, lots of things in Canada. Destination marketing. There's Toronto and Montreal. This is the year they're on sale. So yeah, we'll be out there a lot. It's coming up too.
I love it. I love it. So definitely look out for Marin when you're out at the industry events. She's awesome. I have one more question for me before we jump into our last two questions.
Okay.
My co-hosts are much better researchers than me, so I'm really just curious about this. They put it as a note that I had to follow up, and they're saying that you guys are in the middle of getting into the RFP business as well,
Oh, yeah.
with Smart Meetings 360. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Because I'm just incessantly curious now to know what this is all about.
Absolutely, yeah. So that grew kind of organically, and it's been happening for a long time. It's just uh, really taken off. What happened was is that people came up to us at our events and said, "Hey, you're doing a great job on events. Can you do mine?" And of course, a deer in headlights, I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do that? So, and then on our website, we always attached with our hotel listings, send an RFP, send an RFP. So people could send it. Well, a lot of times people struggled with the form, and we had a little form and this, that, and the other. So we actually had somebody, Carrie Clark, who's worked for us for a long time, who started with Event Source, which was the original company that started doing hotel RFPs. A lot of people might not know that, and they were right here in Sausalito across the way. So Carrie really knew what that was all about and how to do it, and she'd been in hotels for 30 years. So she really spearheaded our Smart Site Selector 360 5 years ago. And now we've got a big team, and a lot of companies use us as a resource. And it's really just a third-party way for us to help you. You can read about it. It connects all the dots, right? So read about it, come to our website, come to our event, kick the tires, meet our attendees, and then if you need help or you're out of time and you need somebody to help source it, well, we're here to help you do that. Don't have to do that for you, but happy to help.
Awesome. And is it just venues or is it all types of vendors?
All types of everything.
Awesome.
All types
Perfect.
of it. And every country. It's amazing.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So we got another question from Twitter this time, and they're wanting to know what is the future of smart meetings?
Oh, the crystal ball, the magic 8 ball. Magic 8 ball, what is the future? Let me look. Um, I definitely see a lot going on in video. I think that we're doing a lot more. I've actually just hired somebody who's joining me from Extra Extra and Entertainment Tonight. That's going to be full-time on staff that did nothing but a video and a lot of um,
Cool.
you know TV type things, so we're headed in that direction. I think, big data, and what we mean by that is giving the right person the right information at the right time so you really can select. It's a kind of crazy world now where we can see where people go on our website. We can understand what people want, uh, much more targeted marketing. Like everything, you just can't blast people with, we're just going to have to get more selective about what information we get because it's too much.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're going to be part of that slicing and dicing and hopefully delivering people what they want when they want it so that we're part of their toolbox instead of an interruption.
I love it. I love it. I think you bring it up that a really good point too of like niching as well is that people want to
Niching,
get very
niche, very
niche
much so. Yeah.
content and they don't want like for example like me I really love hearing about technology changes and things related to AV obviously that's what we do whereas sometimes it's having like subsets of multiple breakouts
Exactly.
right like almost like the big brands where you have two like oh my gosh, I'm gonna totally slaughter like a big gosh, I can't think of a brand name. A big brand name, how they have like multiple soap brands underneath them, like
Oh
Dove and
yeah, like Palmolive, Colgate,
yeah,
Colgate.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
You got to find
Um,
your one you like. Yeah.
Brand's helping me out and saving my butt. I'm remembering
That's
company
okay.
names
That's all
right
right.
now.
I got you. I got you covered there, Will.
Awesome. So we only got a couple minutes left. Time is flying by so quickly.
Wow.
So
I never would have
so
thought.
and it's been an amazing conversation. I know we kind of talked a little bit about tips at the beginning. We talked a little bit about the scent and the experience. And I kind of want to pull another tip from you. So if you had one more tip or one tip that you would give event planners for 2017 to make their events amazing, other than just making a great experience, what would you be your one tip for event planners?
I would say be choosy with your time, your resources. I think that there's so much out there. I think you have to surround yourself with good people who have great attitudes, who really want to help you. I see that in the events. Who would go into the events industry that doesn't want to collaborate and either be a good delegator or delegate to? Um, and I think that you have to really use get organized, organize your resources so they work for you, because it shows. And I think with everything with the bar going up, you can tell somebody who's on their game and they're not. And I think it just starts with being really clear about what your goal is for your event or whatever it turns out to be, and then streamlining that, being clearly communicating that to those that surround you, and then you'll have more time. You'll knock it out of the ballpark and you'll have more time. That would be my tip. That's what I plan to do.
I was gonna say that's a great tip. I think not even just event planning. I think that's everybody in general. Be picky with your time.
Get clear.
For sure.
Get clear.
Very clear. Very clear.
No drama.
I love it. I love it. All right. So my favorite question. We've come to my favorite question of all time that I love to ask. So I want to know, what are your favorite resources? Whether it's a new app, a book, an article. You've shared a ton already. So feel free to lay it down with some of your favorite resources that you have right now.
I just read a book. It's really a fun, simple read. This gentleman is going to speak at our upcoming event. It's called How to Have a Company of Owners. Really fun. He wrote another one called The Kitchen Sink that's really fun. I read last night. We have a thing that we use, a book called Traction for our company that I think is
love
really
Traction.
Do you know it?
Yeah. We very much implement EOS at our company.
So do we. Yeah. So that's not. See, I don't have a secret tip after all. It's out there. I think that.
Can you kind of explain what Traction is? Because I don't think I've even shared it or anyone's ever shared it before. But I think that there's a lot of business owners who tune in. We get a lot of value from it.
Oh yeah. So I do for a business owner. It's key. It's really helped to focus us. So. We had an outside consultant who brought it to our attention, and you have different roles within your company that help to make it a success, and I'll just try to streamline this. You have a role, like my role as the CEO would be the visionary. However, a lot of times because we were small, was the implementer as well, and there should be two different persons. So that's kind of the person who's out there doing things like this, who's in touch with what the trends are, who's being able, and then you have the person internally that's helping people to implement it and holding them accountable, and might be the company asshole. So that's perfect. You got to have one of those. Good cop, bad cop. And then within that, there's a whole system that you set your company up on where we meet. We have a level 10 meeting every Tuesday, and we go around, and it's a great way. Our company, our managers love it because they get to come together. We have a scorecard. We share how each department's doing, what's up, how many Twitter hits have we got, how many Facebook, what's going on, how many articles are in, everybody updates, how many sales, what's going on. And then we all share our rocks. This is part of, the book calls them rocks, but they're challenges. And the idea is that we put them together, and some of them are on track. That's how you go around. And it's all done like within an hour and a half, so it's really fast. And you do it every week, and then let's say somebody says issue. I have an issue with that. Okay, let's put it on the blackboard, and then we pick which issues we think we can overcome as a group, and we take those on, and out of that we put our heads together as a company, and we really come up with some really creative ideas. And we've found that we've done it for about 3 years, that it's a great way not only to engage all the departments in what's going on, because we have lots of different departments here, but it also gives us a lot of creative ideas that we might, another department might have a great solution. Simplest things. I'll tell you a funny story. At the event, we used to always put everybody's name on their swag bag, and we'd go through this whole thing where we'd get their name tag, and then we'd have to look behind and get their bag, and it was taking a lot of time, and there was a long line, you people who do events now, and somebody said to us, are all the bags the same? And we were like, yeah, they are. Oh, do you have to put people's names on them? No, we don't. That saved so much time, but we couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So you know, it's just you never know where it's going to come from, and you gotta. It helped to expedite our business, and it also got everybody invested and involved in the solution. So I
Absolutely.
like that book. I think, and they also have another. The next one is called Rocket Fuel, by the way.
Oh, I
You're
didn't even know he
aware
wrote
of
another
that.
book.
He wrote an Traction, and now he's got Rocket Fuel. So it's
Putting
about
that on my Amazon list.
zooming. Yeah, I'll put that on your list.
That's awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend if you run an organization, Traction is amazing. Whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a business, whether it's,
Amazing.
like an event team, it's great for it.
Yeah, event team. It just gets you clear.
Yeah, oh, it's so amazing, so amazing. Sorry, so I totally interrupted you. You were like, you're
No,
going through some awesome resources. What other resources would you want to share with the audience? Apps, books,
well, I shared the
articles.
new stuff that we've been working. Slido's relatively new to us. We like to do a lot of gamification. We did a lot of smart hunts last year. That was kind of fun. They've got a lot of cool cities that they've broken out and fun things that you can do for
Smart
events.
hunts?
Smart hunts, are you familiar with them?
No, no, no. Can you explain what
They're
that is?
They're out of DC, and they do everything on an iPad. So if you're having an event, we like to add a little spice to our event. So we'll do these scavenger hunts or whatever, and they'll have like a pub crawl, and they know every city.
Cool.
So like in DC, they knew all the hot places to go, or San Francisco. So you give all your attendees, and they team up these iPads with the directions, and then it's scored, and then they come back in, and then you have a big prize. And they do it better than anybody I've ever seen. So it's a
Cool.
great something that we've rolled out at our events.
That's amazing.
I spend too much time on guilt. I'm just going to admit it. So that wouldn't be a favorite website. My husband certainly does not think it's a favorite website of his. Smartmeetings.com is like,
Of course.
duh, that's like the best website ever. And let's see, I have a 7-year-old, so I'm on Nick Jr.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think there's so many websites. I am getting my news. I'm sure you all are. I just got a new iPhone, so my news is streaming to me. All these new things are happening now with.
What's your like go-to news site? Or do you have like a favorite platform I use to get like multiple?
No, if I say CNN, then you'll know where I slant. And if I say Fox, you'll judge me.
No, that's okay.
I go by the headlines.
Cool.
So what I like about it is when you get it on your phone, you can look at whatever interests you. No, I don't like to just get my news from one source. I like to spread it around so that I'm not influenced by somebody's bias.
I'm definitely the same way too. Like what I'll do is I'll have like my Feedly, which is like my RSS reader, and I'll subscribe to Smart Meetings, Mashable, all these different blogs, and you can tell what's really popular and what's really important because as you're scrolling through, you'll see like 4 different sources all talking about, it, and you're like, oh, this is obviously really important, or this is really big.
I agree. I do think that in the meeting side that Skiff is doing a great job.
Yes, very much so.
Shout out to them. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. That was an amazing amount of resources. Some of them which I have to write down and go add to my Amazon Kindle and all that sort of stuff too. So really, really awesome resources. So thank you. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Oh, and we're getting some. Oh, I just looked over in the questions panel for the first time, and everyone is going crazy for the smart hunts. Anthony Vade says, "Oh my God, I love that. Please send me on a hunt." When I will give him shouts, perfect. I will agree as well. That sounds so much fun. So I'm definitely excited to go on a smart hunt.
They're really fun. I highly recommend them.
Awesome, awesome. Well, this brings us to the end of the show. Unfortunately, the whole hour has passed and is zoomed quite by very, very fast. So big thank you, Marin, for joining us on the show and sharing all your expertise and history and everything like that.
Very much. Thank you.
Well,
what a delight.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, everybody, that brings us to the end of the episode. So, as always, feel free to subscribe on iTunes as you can now, and also thank you to everyone who's tuned in live. Make sure next week that you guys tune in live. I'm not going to tell you who it's going to be because, to be honest, I don't even have it in front of me. But we have an amazing lineup. This year is 100% booked out. So, if that gives you an idea how crazy of a schedule that we have. Every single episode is planned out for the rest of the year. So, you definitely want to keep tuning in every single week. 5 o'clock Eastern, right here on GoToWebinar for #EventIcons. I'm going to stop talking. I got to get out of here. Thank you again, Marin, for being here, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Great being here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the Twitter conversation sponsored by Alex Plaxton and Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.